I was thinking recently about the number of things that I've done to manage my mental health over the years, and I thought I might share them here. For some of them may be useful to other people, and there are at least 15. One would be meditation, and that's something that is often prescribed to people, and that's something that I've grappled with some degree of success, and I have no doubt the importance of it and the results that it gets for some people. And Deepak Chopra would be one of my main gurus in that regard, and possibly Eckhart Tolle as well, in terms of the benefits of that. And Deepak Chopra is really inspiring, who was a former doctor who used to talk about him being little more than a licensed drug dealer prescribing medication to people, and then he totally turned around and turned towards Eastern medicine and looked on meditation as probably more effective than drugs. And now I've struggled with it because my brain is just too overreactive, and it's very difficult to quieten down, and that is part of my problem. I think too much. And I've gone through life believing that thinking more is beneficial to me, and that will improve my life. And now I'm come to the conclusion the opposite. The less thinking that I do, the better. But I think we're indoctrined in the education system that thinking, and when you're in college as well, that you think out problems and you find solutions. And sometimes you can get carried away with that belief, and you realize that there are some issues in life that thinking about just simply makes worse. Medication is another one which I've covered in this channel, and that is something that is part of the modern world, and it's a solution that's offered to people, and it is reasonably effective, and it's something that everybody should consider. Not everybody does. Some people have very strong feelings about it and feel that they shouldn't take any medication. And I would urge, if people are really sinking very low, that don't deny yourself that out of a kind of out of a belief out of a sort of a cultural sort of belief system that is denying yourself that option that could provide you with relief. Because some people have sort of have kind of indoctrinated kind of opinions about medication and things like that. And I suppose I'd urge you to consider, does that keep you warm at night, those indoctrinated opinions? And I would say sweep all of that aside, and if something can help you, try it. And I have mixed feelings about medication, but I think they definitely are there, and I think people are over-prescribed on one end, but I think on the other end, people who don't take it at all are possibly... Mindfulness then is another one which is kind of a sister of meditation, and it's another one that I've grappled with and haven't really... It's something that I can realise the benefits of it, but it's a journey I'm still on. And that leads me to Wim Hof, which I think is the next logical step on from meditation, mindfulness, and then Wim Hof breathing. And that was my first breakthrough in this first category that I'm dealing with, which I'll call, say, spirituality, let's say. And Wim Hof as a guru gave me that breakthrough, because it was the first time I did meditation, which is quite an active and disruptive form of meditation, because you're breathing, and you're not breathing normally. You're breathing deeply, and breathing deeply into your belly, and also holding your breath, which causes a stress on the body, and then filling your air with lungs suddenly. So it's quite a physical, disruptive form of meditation, which worked for me. For the first one, I think, is exercise, and that's been possibly the most effective solution for me in that, and it's something that I'm eternally grateful for, that for some reason I have this desire to exercise and to be active every day of my life, and that has been my friend for many years, and I'm so grateful for it. And because sometimes it's so easy to just to lapse and decide to draw back from it and just to sit in the couch, or even go back to bed and stay in bed, which does happen to a lot of people, and I can understand how it does happen. So by pushing it the other way, getting out there into fresh air, swimming and jogging and a certain amount of cycling, anything to be active. But I'd say the most beneficial thing for me in that area has been what I call micro exercise, tiny little bits of exercise, which produce a kind of a motivating effect and transforms your body. Just, well, every morning at the moment I'm doing press-ups, sit-ups and squats, and I start the day with that, and that just jolts my body into, it rejuvenates me really. But even just a small jog for 10 minutes I think makes the difference. And because over the years I've done competitions, and I think that has been important as well. I've done a few marathons and triathlons and other kind of races, and they've been important as just kind of formal milestones for me in terms of getting out there and having a structure that you throw yourself into. Now the competitive element of it, in a lot of cases, I mean in some of the swims I've come last or second last or third last, and certainly the triathlons I've specialised in coming last in triathlons, and I'm kind of proud of that, because the fact that I'm doing it and out there and willing to just complete it regardless of how long it takes, I think it sends a good signal to me that I'm willing to do that, and I plan to keep going that way. And exercise has been fantastic for me. The most benefit I've got is after the triathlons that I did, and the reason I think is because it's such an all-over body workout. You're exercising nearly every muscle in your body through the different disciplines, and the buzz that I had after completing the first one was just incredible. I loved it, but not everybody's going to do that, and obviously I don't do that terribly often. It's been a long time, but so mostly that, and that's why micro exercise, tiny little bits of exercise throughout the day are so important. Even just parking far away and walking brisk in a reasonably brisk manner is great for your health. Creativity is another one which is important for me. And over the years, that's been a real friend to me, and it's been just part of who I am and expressing who I am as a person. And that comes down to, writing. I've written little scripts for short films, written songs, photography, making videos. That whole creative aspect is a hugely important one for me, and I feel a sense of satisfaction and just it's kind of fulfilling aspect. Work then is an important part of any life. It gives you a sense of purpose. Physical work is an interesting one, which it's interesting feeling how you feel after doing some physical work. Sometimes it can just feel fantastic, and not even very heavy physical work, but anytime that I do have the occasion to do it, it can feel fantastic afterwards, and there's some certain sense of completion after it, because sometimes an intellectual bit of work can kind of be draining and you're sitting in a chair, whereas if you're actually active and out there and doing it, that can be very beneficial. The other bits are then counselling. I've done many times over the years with different results. I'm sad to say, and I have to kind of conclude it, that the quality of counsellors out there has been, what's the word for it, abysmal is probably fair to say. And I've had counsellors who have sat there and stared at me and blinked in silence, waiting for you to talk, waiting for you to say and start talking. They would have blinked for an hour and charged me 150 quid for it if they could have got away with it. And I don't know, it's just that has been mixed, the results from that, to say the least. A branch off on that though, which has been much more successful for me, is group therapy. So group counselling and groups basically. So I've gone to several different groups over the years, and they have been fantastic, because you're sitting down with people who have been through the exact same things as you. Well, not the exact same thing as you, sometimes far more serious things, but you're shoulder to shoulder with people who have actually lived it and understand it more than a counsellor who in many cases possibly is in denial that they're going through a lot of the same that you're going through, and they have to kind of put on this veneer that they are not suffering and that they are the person who has arrived at the Valhalla and are telling you how to get there. But group therapy has been extremely good at it for anybody, and there is that scene in Fight Club, I think, where a guy gets into group therapy and his girlfriend, or the girl that he fancies, and they both get obsessed with it and they start going to every possible group that they can. It's kind of funny because in some ways it probably can be addictive, because I was going to 3 different groups at one point, and there's probably an addiction to saturating yourself in that sometimes. And then of course when C19 came along, everything closed because all sort of support for everything else kind of closed down because people got obsessed with one particular disease and everything else became irrelevant. But so nothing is available now. Then there's, I suppose, the category that I'd call personal development, and that for me was NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming, was, it really transformed me, and that really lit me up when I heard about it first. So neuro-linguistic programming, and I suppose the reason was that I'd been trained as an engineer, and a lot of the stuff that came along when I was reading books about psychology and stuff like that, some of it, look, by its nature, it is quite esoteric and woolly and things, and NLP was the first time I'd come across a discipline where it was like engineering for the human mind, and it was talking about the structure of language and how that can change the mind and change people's state and so on, and that really appealed to me and I really enjoyed it. And then I took, after reading many books on it, I took the step of doing courses and becoming an NLP practitioner, and I found that fascinating, and that was extremely good, and that was something that I benefit from to this day. And in that sphere, I suppose the main guru that I would come across would be Tony Robbins, and I owe that guy so much. That guy transformed me. When I saw him first, he just, it was like he was talking to me. It was just his energy and his willingness, his sort of inspiration to kick you in the ass and to make you go out there and to be the best you. And for me, that book that transformed me was Awaken the Giant Within. That was fantastic, and it was a life-changing book. Everything about it, it just led to so many other things that I went on to look at. There were other things like The Secret, and that's quite a long-winded book which basically has one thing, and it's the law of attraction. Whatever you think about and fill your mind with, your reticular activation system will focus on, and you'll get the results from that. And I think that is very powerful and very true. Another category I would say is social, and what a hugely important thing is friends, and I'm very grateful for all the way through my life for having fantastic friends. You know who you are, and I owe a lot to the friendships that I've had all the way through life, and they have been very, very beneficial to me. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't have friends, and that is a tricky one to navigate, and I would urge you to, and it can be difficult for people, but I'd urge you to go out there and to try and be as sociable as you can, because there are loads of people out there just like yourself who would be delighted to have your company, and that's, I think, what stops people, unfortunately, sometimes. And that leads me on to the other one, which is groups. And not just, I mean, the group therapy ones which I talked earlier, but just groups for running or swimming or cycling or mountaineering or hiking and stuff like that. Joining groups can be fantastic, because then we're social animals, and having that social outlet is so important for getting out of your own head and getting into other people's head. Just to have a connection with people is very important, I think, and that's been very useful to me. And I've been happily sociable person for many years. I've always had it, and it's something that I suppose my mother was from the country, and she brought that strong sense of community and knowing everybody and chatting to everybody on the street, and she would chat to anybody, to strangers and things, and I feel myself adopting a little bit of that, which I like. I like chatting to people and having a connection with people and building up connections with people and friendships, because there is a horrible loneliness in the world as well on the other side, and we have to kind of push back against that and open the world up and connect it a bit more. And that sounds a little bit dreamy, but I think it is important. I mean, there is too much loneliness in the world, and we've got to be friendlier and connect with people more. And there is fantastic love out there and connection and friendship, and it's just waiting to be tapped. And so that friendship is out there for everybody, I think, and I hope you find it if you go out there and look for it. That is just kind of streaming out off the top of my head. I think I'll do another video more specifically and in more detail on some of those categories, because I think it'll be useful to people and just useful for me to remember. So that's at least 15 points, and I'm sure there are a lot more. There are other ones which are, I suppose, the more wackier ones, which sounds like an insult, but I'm saying that with the best of intentions. But things like, I suppose, I've done courses on Alexander technique, where it's tapping energy and stuff like that, which I have little proof about, but I think it's important to have an open mind and throughout life, I think, because, and it's something Tony Robbins said, it's like, if people are skeptical about self-improvement, what he says is, you're not skeptical, you're gutless, because you're afraid that it won't work. And that really opened my mind to it and made me more open. And it's just said, right, how does skepticism serve me if it's blocking me from something that might work? So that pushed me in the other direction, and now I'm on this journey. I've been more open than ever for things, even if it's pretty wacky, like Alexander technique, where you're tapping different energy points and things like that, is a little bit unusual, but I think having an open mind to anything that works. And I suppose my attitude is that I will go along to lots of talks, and I've been to seminars and Tony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle and others, and in nearly all cases I come away with one or two things that improve my life, and I'm eternally grateful to them for that, because it might not all be effective, but even if you improve your life by 1%, that is massive, because you only get one of these lives. So if you improve by 1% for the rest of your life, that is hugely something to treasure. And so there are just 15 things off the top of my head that have improved things for me to different degrees, and I hope some of them improve life for you.